An inexperienced warrior puffs for air, reeling as he stares at a horror monster Kabaros, the wingless dragon, a high-ranked dungeon boss of many nightmares at level 67. The monster blows fire onto the whole adventuring party, who are about to be wiped out. The team's sorceress clucks her head and admits that her defense spell may not hold out against the fire. Their armored elder simply freezes into a statued stance, wide-eyed, as a little green goblin jumps out from the fire. The dragon bellows again, readying its assault, but the goblin zooms with super speed, dodging with ease and hitting a wooden club into the beast. The party stands paralyzed in shock as the beast drops. A blond boy is bewildered how something as simple as a goblin can accomplish this. And then the elder notices a solitary figure on the horizon since the goblin was summoned. The setting changes previously. Kim Chai-soo labors on a construction site, smiling through drudgery. He pines about his own life, mumbling to himself like a weak troll. He eavesdrops on co-workers discussing Mr. Chad, who took time off from work to play a totally immersive VR game Gate of Heaven in which one becomes rich and powerful through secret classes. Kim recalls the latter's madness and how internet cafes provided poor gamers like him. He used to enjoy it, but is now in debt even in the game. In battle, he uses Rock Strike and receives some coins, but it doesn't appear to be of any consequence. He yells in frustration, asking when his hero journey begins. Then, he manages to acquire a more advanced healing crystal for 300,000 won. He is thrilled and laughs until he realizes others are gawking at him. Embarrassed, he turns around to see a lovely woman who says she sees him mining daily and requests his help. Her party is held up behind a rock and needs his mining skill. Kim is hesitant, citing his low level. One of the dwarfs in her party says they can handle the monsters. Kim is shocked, and the dwarf rebukes him for stereotyping dwarves. Kim hesitates at the proposition he may gain something helpful and consents when the woman teases him and says he is her type. Guilt is immediate thereafter. When a level 7 creature, Gay Wolf, appears as they exit, Kim loses control, yelling for his mother. But Catherine Lee, a lady level 39 sorceress, rescues him in one fire spell. She's nice, reminds him to stick with her, and Kim gets to imagine a romance adventure. A new colleague shows up, hulking and arrogant, taking down monsters with ease. He tells them they're here for a special ore that takes top-of-the-line mining skills to open it up. Why Kim was hired. But Kim feels exploited like a machine. Seething, he smashes a boulder, attempting to prove himself. But nothing occurs. The dwarf and the tall man discuss whether the secret orb is real or not. The tall man intimidates the dwarf. Kim humiliates him once more, though she attempts to concentrate. And then suddenly, with a crack, the rock breaks apart. Kim has discovered a hidden dungeon. The group is there, stunned. Kim excitedly explains this could be massive rewards and even a hidden class. Catherine teases him, but he does not mind. And then suddenly the tall male goes on PvP and slashes Kim and deals him 480 damage. Kim gasps as they must have set this up. Catherine teases him as well. The man smirks and explains to Kim he was just along for the ride. Putting his hands on his head, the man says they always knew about the dungeon. They used him. Kim passes out. When he revives, he's still in the dungeon. At first, he assumes they let him go, but then notices his healing crystal is broken. It auto-revived him, meaning he's dead. He becomes enraged and screams, then notices the dungeon door is still ajar. The resolute one rushes in, swearing revenge. But he steps on the stairs immediately after entering, trips, and takes a loss of 80 GP. Swearing at the poor design, he wakes up on the floor of the dungeon, almost dead, with 20 GP. Before him sits a large goblin on a throne. The entrance sign says, Temple of the Goblins. Kim scowls. This is not what he had in mind, and he notices a hand on the ground. The dwarf, dead with blood around his head. A screen asks if Kim has resurrection power. He does not. He thinks if the dwarf pushed the button out of greed. Red alert. The dungeon is extremely difficult and quite beyond his level. He has to go. Then, a scream, a party member. A giant hand catches the tall man and crushes him. Kim knows it is not a goblin but a huge creature Jurger, level 80. He goes mad. This was not intended to happen. Jurger Buckle analyzes the man ruthlessly. Kim gags violently. Not to be sick. Gate of Heaven feigns pain and trauma. Safety devices are only able to operate in areas of low level. This is not one. Catherine screams. Kim is frozen. What can he do? He's overcome with fear. He runs, cursing that it isn't his fault. They've betrayed him. He admits that he is weak, but that he'd like to live. And then a mysterious message turns up. The Goblin Lord sees a resemblance in you and him. Cowardice and weakness. Kim looks up at the Goblin Lord. Something breaks. I don't want to be like that, he's sobbing, trembling. He looks at the mangled corpse of Catherine, blood dripping everywhere. Kim recalls his actual life debt, rejection, no respect. He wanted to battle monsters, live with honor. But even in the game, he was exploited. Sobs are present as he cries that he's done nothing to warrant this. You're just a goblin. Who are you to look down on me? He bellows. Suddenly, a notice pops up. He's an honorary goblin. Goblins will aid him. Another notice, he's awarded a hidden class goblin summoner. Kim is in shock. Then laughs derisively and declines. But the system will not listen. The alteration already occurred. Enraged, he tries to comprehend what is happening. Just as Jurger arrives, bellowing. Kim knows there is no turning back. He uses a new skill, summons a goblin. It looks weak and pitiful. He will use it as bait and run away. But the goblin strikes Jurger. Kim is about to run away, but doesn't. Damage numbers skyrocket 100 million. The goblin kills Jurger instantly. Kim stands agape as XP goes through the roof. New skills are unlocked: goblin feeding, goblin walking. Experience for the summoned goblin takes off. Kim freezes, unable to comprehend what has just occurred. Kim's mind flashed back to the horrific sight of Jurger crashing through the tall man's body. At the same moment, in the real world, Catherine sat paralyzed with terror, her face as pale as a ghost, screaming uselessly into her VR headset. A player sprinted over beside her, ripping off the headset in a frantic panic, not realizing until later that she'd been given a psychological shock so bad she'd never be playing the game again. She was effectively retired. In-game, Kim's called Goblin mode through monsters with ease, dishing out million after million on each strike. His screen was filled to the point of spamming as his level flew through the roof. Finally, Kim told the goblin to stop so he could plunder mana stones, wolf claws, anything of value that he didn't have yet. He figured that now that Jurger had been killed, the dungeon was free. But everyone else already was dead, and the door out was already death. Looking at the goblin that had cleaned out the dungeon by itself, Kim noticed something odd. Its level hadn't increased at all, yet his was now at 31. When he tried to look at its stats, access was refused by the system. It made no sense. How could something so tiny looking have such strength? It must be a bug, of course. Still, Kim grinned. No problem. He'd used it before others did. He didn't need to mine anymore. He was set to be placed on top of Gate of Heaven. The next day at N Bank, Kim's number was called out again. The clerk informed him the wolf claws he possessed were worth 97,001 and inquired if he would like to have it credited to his account. Kim asked them to send it elsewhere and then carelessly told them that he had more things like Jurger's membrane and heart. The clerk went wide with shock and dialed the bank manager's number. Kim questioned why everybody was making such a fuss. Sitting with the manager, who offered him tea and smiled, Kim icily responded the tea was cold. The manager admitted he hadn't warmed water and leaned forward, explaining Kim's merchandise was extremely valuable. Kim questioned why the manager himself needed to be involved. Smiling, the manager explained that with merchandise like Jurger's parts, there were superior investment opportunities. Couldn't just use this as pocket money. Kim blinked in surprise when he discovered their worth 230 million. His hand tightened, holding the teacup. Later on, Kim informed his goblin that he had settled 10% of his loans, playfully teasing it like a pet. He immediately recanted he could not do it like that. The goblin was repulsive. As they both walked in the city, he attempted to unsummon it but could not. The goblin started screaming, drawing people's attention. People mocked its ugly face, asking who conjured up such a creature. Kim's humiliation increased when the onlookers confused him with the goblin. Anger was seething within. Attempting to push the goblin aside, he stumbled when it began to harass a bystander, attracting more spectators. A burly man named Patton appeared later, angry at the presence of the goblin. The spectators murmured derisively, dubbing him the Destroyer, although nobody was serious about it. Kim became anxious. No one who used that kind of moniker was ever sane. Kim tried to appease Patton, assuring him the goblin was harmless. Patton ignored him and attacked. The goblin counterattacked immediately with savage ferocity, overpowering Patton in an instant. A notice flashed on the screen. PK mode engaged. Pain levels were limited so higher-level players could not take advantage of lower-level players. The audience was stunned with awe. Whispers went about, how did that little goblin defeat Patton? Kim's heart was pounding in his chest. If others found out that monster was his life would blow wide open with calamity. And Patton's guild came. Hayak, their captain, ridiculed him by referring to him as a shame. According to Kim, Hayak jeered at the goblin as garbage but demanded that it pay. Hostility intensified. Kim knew that the goblin would destroy them, but to fight would be to create more havoc. He bellowed he would deal with the goblin himself. The guild overruled him and promised to kill him if he got in their way. Kim warned them that mobbing the goblin would be worse for them. Even before anyone could say another word, the goblin went first. It used rock throw and hit Minong, a speed master. The blow was powerful and knocked him to the ground right away. The guild lost their minds. Kim was appalled at how fast things had escalated and ran off. Running away, he wished he had not assumed life would be easier with the goblin. Instead, it created a mess. Then an enigmatic old man appeared, insisting on Kim following him in a hurry. At his wit's end, Kim followed after him. Then was ambushed. The old man laughed, and this was Kim's road to perdition. Then suddenly a system message flashed, congratulating Kim on his guile, giving him a title for using enemy diversions on himself. Kim was angry. Guile? That's what the Goblin Lord had called him too. He hadn't done anything wrong. They used and betrayed him. Taking a breath, Kim turned to his goblin. I'm tired of being seen as weak, he muttered. It's time to take revenge. I'll destroy the Anant Guild. The goblin seemed to brighten at his words, like it felt the plan too. In the meantime, two of the members of the guild, Jae-hyun and Inuk the Shadow, stalked Kim off rooftops. Jae-hyun inquired if Inuk necessarily had to come for so important a mission. Inuk advised her not to underestimate the goblin. It had knocked Patton out with one punch. A scream then echoed suddenly from below. They stood stock still, gazing down to behold Sun Greel, a member of the guild, thrown from above. Then the goblin emerged behind them. Before Inuk could act, he struck, but the goblin did not even flinch. Fear crept in. It was real and all too powerful. He tried and missed, the goblin just avoiding. Jae-hyun shouted to move. Inuk tried to regain command. How something so small could wreak millions in destruction? Must be an illusion. But fear was getting the best of him. To sustain himself, Inuk activated a special skill, Absolute Evil. His attack was boosted, but speed reduced 90%. Jae-hyun, seeing in awe, wondered how much of an expensive skill was used on a goblin. Inuk explained it automatically activated while he was in danger. He switched to reverse fist stance, trading crit chance for more attack. Because they needed to complete this as quickly as possible, Jae-hyun activated storm arrows, dispelling all movement penalties in the area. Angry, she complained about having to employ a valuable skill simply to kill a goblin. With speed restored, Inuk charged the goblin and landed a blow. But the payback, 0 damage. Inuk was shocked. Again 0. He couldn't believe it. Before he could move, the goblin smiled and slapped him out of nowhere. The slap struck hard on his side, and he crashed to the ground, his body contorting in agony. Jae-hyun stood there rigid, unable to process what she'd just witnessed. Slowly, realization filtered through this goblin was out of the ordinary. It was far worse. Kim moved closer, observing her in silence, his eyes hidden behind pleasure. "I summoned it," he said to her. Jae-hyun's face went from shock to terror. Everything had changed in an instant. Jae-hyun stood frozen in disbelief as goblins cackled beside Kim. In-hawk, one of Everton Guild's strongest, had been easily overwhelmed by this goblin. Her mind struggled to process it. But Kim, with a deranged expression, dismissed her confusion coldly. "It's none of your business, and right now, I'm beyond pissed." Jae-hyun, trembling, demanded to know why he was doing this. "Whatever have I done?" she wailed. Kim snarled horribly. "It's your fault. You started all this." She screamed at him in fear, accusing him of being crazy. Remembering he had been sounding crazy, Kim attempted to save himself, claiming she had moved first and he and the goblin were merely defending themselves. But Jae-hyun's fear grew. Ashamed that things were spiraling out of hand, Kim stared at the goblin, shouting for it to quiet her. The commotion had attracted a crowd. Onlookers pointed up to the ceiling. "It's them, the same ones," Kim freaked out. "They need to get away." The crowd was talking in fear. "The goblin killed the Everton Guild. Is it going to kill her next?" Kim yelled at the goblin to cease. Miraculously, it complied. Jae-hyun remained frozen in fear, and to Kim's shock, the crowd below began cheering for him. They thought he was saving her. "You can do it," someone yelled. "You're gonna beat the goblin." Confused, Kim realized the public misunderstood everything. They believed he was the hero. He pictured Jae-hyun staring at him with appreciation, picturing himself saying a performative utterance like, "Your time is up." A sickening grin crossed his face at the vision. The clapping satiated him more than it should have satiated him. Stalking Jae-hyun, scrunched face, he warned, "Promise not to speak at all. Don't tell anyone about me or the goblin, and I'll spare your life." She promised in fear. Kim's grin relaxed. But he turned against the goblin, theatrically accusing it of injuring innocent civilians. He played Goblin Walk, yelling out a string of light to bind the goblin. The crowd gasped as Kim slammed it onto the ground. "I won't forgive you," he bellowed. The crowd was stunned. A beginner player with a monster binding skill? How awesome. Kim got a system alert. The mood of the goblin improved for the better thanks to Goblin Walk. Was the goblin having fun with this? No time to consider. He warned the crowd to stand back. Jae-hyun, observing, grumbled, "I understand now. He's above level 50. That's why Everton died." The crowd gasped, so Kim wasn't only powerful, he was at the top of his class. Kim pushed the goblin out of the way, invoking another ability to summon goblin food, and then gave a howl. "This is your ruin." The goblin fled after it. Kim shut the city gates. The gates clanged shut behind the goblin, which was left in the cold. The crowd cheered. "Is it done?" someone asked. "Are you okay?" someone asked another. Kim, face flushing with pride, had been angry and was now a hero. Jae-hyun came up to him once again, her face serious. She told him she had instructed her guildmates they had respawning in the Resurrection Temple of Pascal. She knew better, of course. She promised to keep it from him. Scenting opportunity, Kim asked, "Pascal, is that the sacred space? Infinite HP, no damage." Then his face darkened over, "If you betray me, I'll kill you every time you respawn." Jae-hyun screamed in terror, promising not to tell a thing. Kim finally breathed easy, lying in his bed in a beautiful new room. All this madness, chaos, deceptions had worked somehow. But he remembered someone, Catherine. Guilt flashed for a moment. He hadn't saved Harrence more. An idea occurred to him, the goblin point. Feeling his status, he noticed Kim Soo Goblin Summoner. Goblin points, 1. Derisively, he quipped, "Are they going to start referring to me as their brother now?" Opening the goblin skill shop, he noticed that all of the upper level skills were locked. The only thing available was Goblin Gathering. Interested, he chose it. Abruptly, a frightful sound ripped through his room. The goblin came crashing in, destroying everything. Kim screamed it wasn't a passive skill. It called out the goblin. Panicked, someone knocked at the door. The innkeeper shouted, "Are you all right?" Kim yelled. "Leave if you don't want to be killed," and then realized he had to retract that. "No, wait, just leave." Desperate, he attempted to soothe the goblin, telling it to calm down and apologizing. That evening, Kim sat next to it, venting softly. "It's not fair," he whispered. "Everyone teased me, even though I did nothing wrong." The goblin emitted a soft sound. Perhaps it comprehended. Elsewhere, Everton Guild members sat in a tavern. One noticed Kim approaching. "It's him. The dude from yesterday." Kim, visibly shaken, confessed that he was the one who rescued Jae-hyun. In-hak, the omen of death, gave him a cold, icy stare and thanked him. Kim, shaking in fear, asked him not to glare at him like that. Giant, one of the other members, warned In-hak to stop being so menacing. They had no clue Kim was lying. Kim said he'd assisted them even when they betrayed him because he required something from them. In-hak appreciated that and vowed to pay him back. Kim inquired about departing the beginner area. In-hak said something called F-Jornail, which was presumably a higher level. Then an old man cut in, saying he knew the way. He apologized to Kim, realizing his own power now that he'd seen what he'd done to one goblin. Even Patton the Destroyer said Kim could be stronger than them. Kim, to himself, knew that wasn't the case. If In-hak had attacked the previous day, he'd have been killed in one blow. The old man explained that to leave the beginner zone, known as Leaf, Kim would need to clear a raid boss dungeon. Unlike field dungeons, raid dungeons only open at set times. The Leaf raid dungeon opened once per month. That's why everyone was here to prepare. But yesterday, it was ruined by a certain goblin. Kim's eyes flew wide. His goblin had spoiled the only exit. He was trapped in Leaf for an entire month. Incensed, he seized In-hak by the collar. "There has to be an alternative escape," he screamed. In-hak replied smoothly that there wasn't, and on that note, their debt was paid. As Everton Guild departed, Giant gave Kim a sympathetic glance. In the meantime, the goblin, who was concealed behind a crate, chuckled quietly. It then glanced upwards. Something was amiss. A chill swept through the air. The raid boss dungeon gate, which was closed yesterday, creaked open once more. A system message flashed in front of Kim. "Raid boss dungeon has reopened." Everyone gaped in amazement. The elderly man gasped, "This should not be possible." In-hak scrunched his eyes, muttering to himself that the gate should not open again. Then another announcement. "Raid boss dungeon reopened." Undefined stood stock still, the room echoing with whispers of astonishment. Peyton the Destroyer shook his head in disbelief. The raid boss dungeon had reopened. The group stood before the gate, stunned. In-hak asked the old man how many were inside. "No one," he replied. The previous team had already completed the dungeon and moved on. "So, we're the only ones," In-hak muttered. Kim's face hardened. "I knew it," he hurled at them. "You were seeking to leave me behind. Betrayers," he bellowed with rage. "I'll not let you share the spoils with me." Giant attempted to placate him, assuring him it was a mistake, but In-hak interrupted curtly. "Do you wish to go or not?" Kim snarled. "I'm not letting you go in alone." In-hak laid out the plan. It was a single-room dungeon, the boss appearing right away. While they were strong enough to handle it, caution was still advised. But Peyton scoffed. "Caution. We'll finish this in 10 seconds. We've got Everton's best." Kim whispered to the one crouched behind a crate, however. "Wait until I call you." He scanned through his inventory and an increased healing stone, something to carry him up to 100 GP. Surprised he still had the item, he chose to ignore the mystery and charged through the gate. As Kim stepped in, his breathing ceased. So this is the raid boss dungeon. A gigantic level 40 steel giant materialized before them. Hidden dungeon, steel giant's lair read on their screens. This isn't normal, one panicked, shouting. Inhok glared at the old man. What kind of plan is this? I don't know, muttered the old man. Giant yelled at Kim to run, but Kim smirked. Back out now and I'll take all the rewards for myself. Someone snapped. It's level 40. A single hit could wipe us. But Kim dismissed it. The difference is only 10 levels. Rewards like this don't come easy. Then Kim shouted, Goblin, save me. But the goblin, who was still in the corridor, was perplexed by the cry. The steel giant thundered and charged. Kim continued to call for the goblin, but it didn't arrive. The giant's fist killed him straight away. System message, player Kim Shil-soo is dead. Peyton smiled. That's the man who beat a goblin, Inhok icily shrugged. We don't care what becomes of him. But then, the door to the dungeon clanged shut behind them. It's not a typical raid, explained the old man solemnly. It's a secret dungeon that generated from the raid. That is why we are attacking a level 40 steel giant. We have no choice but to fight. Sudden, Kim's body convulsed. He woke up, screaming in pain. I'm level 30. How did I get killed in a single hit? Then he realized he didn't spend his 26 unused stat points, and he didn't call the goblin before charging. Almost got the treasure, he cursed, fuming in rage and self-reproach. Peyton, on the other hand, shouted, Charge! Let's strike! Begin the hunt! Kim. They were moving ahead without him. Jae-hyun used wind arrow, doubling the speed of the team's movements. Inhok and Minyoung were advancing at top speed, striking. They unleashed sequential slash, 16-hit combo. The old man watched. Every monster's got a weak point. Hit it hard enough and we'll find it. Inhok asked Minyoung, Did you find it? No. Total damage 0. There are two possibilities, Inhok muttered. Its defense is insane, or we're missing something. He struck with Peerless Blade, a powerful skill, but even that didn't leave a dent. It has a passive called Hatred of the Weak, Inhok explained. Any attack that deals less than 5% of its total HP is nullified. Then you're the only one who can hurt it, Peyton shouted. But the old man disagreed. Inhok's strong, but there's someone with an even stronger attack. Jae-hyun approached her, her eyes shining. She started to employ her skill, Final Death Arrow. If the guild found that I had this, they would make me guild master, she was thinking. Peyton overheard and was astonished. I don't have any idea what this skill does, but I'll give you time to get it off. He established War Cry, taunting the boss. The beast unleashed all of its anger on him. Kim sat on the ground, frustrated and aggroed. Idiot, why pull aggro instead of running? Peyton was struck, but he persisted. That's it, he taunted. But the old man warned him not to be an idiot. Then the elderly man utilized pain sharing, distributing damage to Peyton. The one who has more HP will get more, he stated. Kim stood by observing quietly, seeing that they all had low levels, and that none of them possessed secret classes. But their coordination was perfect. The assassination team stepped up. Their goal, reduce the boss's defense using their passive, weak point reduction, which had a 1% chance to lower defense by 2% per hit, stacking up to 5 times. Kim was stunned. So this is the power of a real, well-organized guild. His frustration deepened. If they defeat the monster, I'll gain nothing. He watched, helpless. Then the monster latched itself onto Peyton once more. Peyton, stunned, cried out, Why are you turning away? I'm your foe. But the monster brought out surface destruction, a heartless AOS skill. The ground caved in and some team members were killed instantly. Kim, awake and enraged, activated the high-magnitude healing stone. System message, reviving player Kim Shil-soo with 100 GP. He smiled. The hero always arrives late. The system suddenly declared. Steel Giant has aimed at Kim Shil-soo. Kim's eyes bulged out with shock. Some members of the team were shocked, hurt by the crushing blow of the steel giant. Peyton was frozen, stunned by the bodies lying on the ground before him. Furious, he dashed forward, using Giant Slash. Even with that, his strongest attack could only manage 3,890 damage, a mere percentage of the boss's HP. The old man used the pain distribution to distribute the blow, but got 2,456 damage, gritting his teeth in agony that the plan had failed. A system message flashed. Peyton the Destroyer and the cunning old man are dead. Kim froze. I just resurrected myself. It's not my fault, he wailed. In the shadow, strode forward methodically. Analyzing the situation, he explained how Kim's sudden resurrection had deranged the boss's target priority, causing it to attack the incorrect targets and exploit the team. Jae-hyun, the bringer of death, questioned whether she should use her one-shot death bow. Her HP was 46%, and losing the skill would remove even more. No, In shouted. It's too soon. Our defensive passive only has 3 stacks. We need 5. He vowed to hold her back. Jae-hyun positioned her shot but did not fire it off. Kim tried to help. Can I assist? Jae-hyun snapped. You're useless without your goblin. Just stay out of the way. Kim sulked, thinking, they need me, yet they treat me like trash. It's their fault the goblin isn't here. He smiled bitterly, remembering his level 999 goblin, and decided to watch them fail. Just then, the steel giant targeted Jae-hyun and charged. As foreseen, it went for the ranged attacker. In attempted to parry it, using Twin Blade Frenzy, dealing 1e920, then 1e980, then 1e912 more damage in rapid succession. Finally, the boss became aware of him as a threat. System message, target changed to in the shadow. HP left, 460 30 thousandths. And attempted to use rapid evasion, but a fatal message flashed. Not enough mana. He was attacked head-on and flung away. System message, in has died. Kim opened his eyes in horror. I should have stayed dead. He snarled. Jae-hyun shrieked, It's all your fault. They clashed with hatred. I needed 10 more seconds, she shouted. I'd rather you all die than accept the reward, growled Kim. The steel giant emitted a deafening bellow and chose Jae-hyun once more. When it was about to charge, she ceased arguing. This is not the time, she stated as she got ready to release her unfinished skill. But Kim was beside her, smiling. You can't move if you're charging, right? She shrieked, surprised. What are you doing? Get off. Kim grabbed her and sprinted with all the speed she could muster, avoiding the monster's charge and laughing hysterically. How are you so fast? Someone yelled. Losing his mind, the secret was made clear to Kim. He had invested all 26 unused stat points in speed. And then he recalled something. A fresh goblin point had been won in his previous argument. Perhaps the Goblin Lord is disciplining me for selfishness, he instructed himself. Jae-hyun then bellowed, I'm ready to fire. Fire now, Kim shouted, tossing her over his shoulder. She cautioned, if I miss, it's over. Kim took no notice. I demand revenge for the blood I spilled and that healing stone. The monster whirled wildly. An area attack was likely. It employed its most powerful attack, World Destruction skill. Ground shattered. Debris scattered in all directions. Kim witnessed the move engulfed the entire area and Jae-hyun had 18 GP. Even he would be killed with his 100 GP if it struck him head-on. Jae-hyun fought to aim amid the destruction. Kim growled, I see something. She hoped it was the answer, but he said it was just childhood memories. That's your life flashing before your eyes, she spat. Then and suddenly there was a rent in space. A clawed goblin hand ripped through the air. The goblin emerged, laughing maniacally. Kim shrieked, What took you so long? I called you eons ago. Jae-hyun stood agog. Did it rip through the dungeon itself? She wondered. That would be impossible. Kim smiled. Time for my secret talent, Goblin Shield. The monster released one final roar to try and push through. Kim taunted it. Brave dying words for a secret dungeon boss. He and Jae-hyun stayed behind the goblin as the final scene started. Jae-hyun loosed her full charge one-shot death bow, striking for 2,524 damage. The steel giant cracked, froze, and collapsed. System message, hidden dungeon, steel giant's chamber cleared. Jae-hyun choked, laughing in astonishment. We really did it. System message. Jae-hyun leveled from 27 to 31. Kim leveled from 31 to 34. Kim was so excited and jumped out screaming, "Show me the reward, I want to see what I won." A system notification says all the raid fallen characters are brought back to life. The team leader of the black unit inquires if they are okay. One of the members responds that he has some blood in his mouth, but assures they are okay, happy to have slain the monster. He deduces that had the boss level been just slightly higher, they'd have been in deep trouble. Someone then realizes Zangul isn't breathing, but someone else makes a joke that will wake him up from having hit him in the face very hard. The leader asks Kim and Jae-hyun what happened, but Kim's being weird, wrapping herself in all of the monster loot and screaming her head off, telling people to leave her alone. Jae-hyun, flustered and embarrassed, informs the leader that she has absolutely no clue what is happening with Kim. Kim and Jae-hyun both glance at a system message before them that they have not reached the requirements to open up a secret class. Jae-hyun asks if completing a secret dungeon is not sufficient for that. Kim thinks that maybe similar to the way he received the Goblin class because of the favor of the Goblin Lord. Unsealing a secret class has things to do before killing the boss. Kim does not take it seriously and shout crazily for getting the loot before they vanish. Jae-hyun shouts to stop, which means the loot should be given since they all worked towards it. Kim will not listen and holds the items closed. Some of the team members mock him obsessively, calling him Gollum. The team leader leans over to Kim, explaining to him that although they did not come seeking more treasure, they are not greedy. This surprises Kim, as he never would have expected such dignity from them. With a burst of rage, the old man runs in and slaps Kim severely on the head, reproaching him and faulting Kim and In-hyuk for the destruction. Angrily, Kim shouts back, accusing them of being traitors once again. The leader brusquely responds, telling him that if they were going to kill him, they would already have done so. He points to the bow that Kim had grabbed and tells him it is the Iron Giant's bow, a magical weapon only an archer can wield. Kim is hysterical, shouting that he is not even an archer. Punishing himself for discovering the item cannot be sold or worn beyond its class, he refuses to relinquish it and maintains everyone else has special gear except him. One member requests that he give it to Jae-hyun, but Kim simply grins and informs them that he will only give it to them if they reciprocate in kind. Their leader is appalled by Kim's audacity. Kim cackles maniacally, saying that they will have to purchase it from him if they want it. As he and his goblin laugh, one of his guild mates stands there in shock, thinking Kim really does look like the ugly goblin. Kim's goblin cowers in hiding behind the rocks, scared of Kim joining the Everton Guild. Jae-hyun removes the bow from Kim and says that it is extremely heavy. Kim thanks the team teasingly for the trade, and the leader comments that Kim has a certain knack for making people dislike him. When asked where he's headed next, Kim replies with a smirking grin that he's heading somewhere they're not. As the others leave, Jae-hyun shoots him a questioning look. A system message confirms the successful exit of the secret raid dungeon. Kim believes that losing the special bow was not a good thing, but he did acquire the thief's glove, a one-time material which can be employed to steal something from a lower player. More significantly, he obtained high-purity steel. As a past mining gimmicky character, he understands how precious it is. While others were crazed about the weapon, he finds the real prize in the scarce material. The next day, Kim is in Fjornail, a best-level Phoenix Market city. He can hardly believe his eyes upon seeing players in gaudy equipment and curses under his breath that he can detect the vice of money in the air. But little by little, this elation fades as he remembers how quickly he had been slain by a monster 9 levels below him. He realizes that he is still equipped with his old level 3 armor, which even has a negative defense rating. His goblin lets out a blood-curdling scream to alert him. Kim warns it not to get into any trouble in the village, but then out of nowhere comes this giant monster that frightens him. Kim panicked, and he wailed, asking why there should be boss-level monster at a peaceful place, and orders the goblin to watch out for him. A soft voice calls to him suddenly to come near. An immaculate, hardened woman named Irene rides on top of the monster and asks if that goblin is his called monster. Kim realizes that the monster is her summon. Irene presents Michelle, the monster, as also being polite in the village. Kim already knows her incredible strength and is aware that even Everton, the best guilds, would not be able to match her. Irene inquires about the name politely. Kim smugly answers. Kim Chil-soo laughs and informs that she was not speaking to him, she was speaking of the goblin. She is upset that Kim never gave it a name. He teases her and tells her it's absurd to give a called monster a name. Irene smiles and declares, one-sided relationships are mostly unstable. She views the goblin at once became Kim's protector, fiercely committed and even not named. She brushes him off and expects the next time they'll meet will be more thrilling. On leaving, Kim mockingly wonders if he needs her advice, reassuring his goblin they're fine. Kim goes back to a gear shop and is met with disdain by the NPC Humphrey the Sharp-Tongued, who makes fun of Kim's gear as being worse than trash. Kim stands up for himself, explaining that he had stopped by to purchase improved armor. Humphrey tells him that he can have some quality steel armor for 350 gold, approximately $40. Kim purchases it, figuring he needs proper defense or he will die again. But after he puts it on, he's immovable. Humphrey laughs, pointing out that characters such as Kim shouldn't be moving at all. Kim recalls having allocated all his stat points to agility and heavy armor was therefore useless. He demands a refund, but Humphrey only gives him 30 gold, calling it trash. Kim screams in rage, realizing he has been cheated. He then notices a golden exclamation point hovering above the head of Humphrey. Kim's curiosity gets the upper hand and he asks. Humphrey panics and notices his own personal blacksmith hammer missing. He will not let anyone else use any other hammer and begs Kim to retrieve it for him from the underground waterway dungeon. The quest notification Humphrey's problem appears, and the reward for this is the ability to recycle scarce materials to produce quality armor. Kim grins, now realizing the value of the monster loot that he spent time collecting. He accepts the quest willingly. In the doorway to the dungeon, Kim boasts, "I don't need others. Other players would be an annoyance." As he steps in, a system message appears, ominous quest stipulation. The quest will fail if Humphrey is killed. Kim twirls around in terror as Humphrey materializes behind him, yelling he's coming along. Kim yells in anger, "Why is this NPC coming along into the dungeon?" As Kim approached the cave, he noticed a blacksmith standing right in front of it, holding a hammer in each hand and staring directly at him. Confused, Kim blinked and tried to make sense of the system notification he had received earlier. The worry showed clearly on his face. If Humphrey dies, the quest fails. He muttered internally that he might have to drag around a level 13 tumor, an unexpected variable. Suddenly, the blacksmith shouted, "Why are you just standing there staring? Hurry up and move." Kim didn't respond. Nervous sweat rolled down his face as he calculated his next move. No need to keep pace with him, he thought. I'll just outmaneuver him and finish the job before he even shows up. I'm maxed out in agility. I'll skip the trash mobs and head straight to the boss. Excited, Kim dashed into the cave, muttering under his breath. I was just about to leave. Confident in how NPC escort quests usually worked, he assumed that once he got far enough, the blacksmith would stop following. But then he froze mid-run. His eyes widened in shock right ahead. Humphrey was already deep in battle, surrounded by a pack of wolf monsters, his health dropping fast. Yet the blacksmith still yelled, "You dare challenge me, Humphrey the Great!" The moment was absurd. His bravado completely contradicted the danger he was in. Panicking, Kim shouted at him, "No, you dumb NPC, stop fighting and stay back." Desperate to save the quest, Kim ordered his goblin to intervene. In a blur of motion, the dark goblin leapt into action, dealing absurd 99999 damage with every strike, quickly wiping out the wolf pack. When the last monster fell, the goblin flicked off the blood dramatically and grinned at Kim with his usual creepy smile. "Kisha shishi," he said. Though Kim had no idea what it meant, it still gave him chills. Humphrey, full of false pride, declared, "As expected, you're no match for the mighty Humphrey." Kim, annoyed, muttered angrily under his breath. Then Humphrey's eyes locked onto something in the distance. Without a word, he took off running, leaving Kim behind. Kim clenched his teeth in frustration. Should I just kill him? Seriously? The thought lingered. Narrowing his eyes, Kim considered another strategy. Have the goblin guard him while I rush the boss? But that risked failure if anything went wrong. Realizing there was no easy way out, Kim clenched his fist and declared, "There's only one way." Turning to the goblin, he said, "We're changing strategy. From now on, wipe out every trash mob along the way." The goblin burst into crazed laughter. Kick! Meanwhile, deeper in the cave, Humphrey stood tall against a horde of rat monsters, snarling, "These filthy bastards! They even stole my hammer." With a loud roar, he charged to attack. But before he could land a hit, the dark goblin blitzed through the rats, slaughtering them before Humphrey could even lift his weapon. Still, the blacksmith kept swinging wildly at nothing, shouting, "Take my ultimate technique." Watching from behind, Kim stood with hands on his waist, grinning. "All right, it'll take more time, but it's safer to clear everything." He was confident now that the old man wouldn't die if they kept this up. But then Humphrey began to notice something. He hadn't killed a single monster. His eyes darted to Kim, who was glowing with confidence and radiating a soft golden aura. Furious, Humphrey yelled, "These bastards! Are they seriously ignoring me?" Kim tried to calm him gently. "No, they're not ignoring you." But his tone gave him away. Humphrey exploded. "Before I was a blacksmith, I was a proud warrior." Energy burst from his body. War cry skill activated. A system notification popped up. Kim immediately panicked. "You bullheaded bastard." The cry echoed through the dungeon, waking hidden skeletons. Undead soldiers, eyes glowing, armed and high level, emerged. Humphrey, eyes sparkling with battle hunger, declared, "Even ancient spirits awaken from my shout. Now this is getting interesting." Kim stared at him in disbelief. "You're telling me those monsters wouldn't have attacked if we just walked past them?" Kim snapped. "I'm pissed off right now. This better be your last trolling stunt, right?" Dark Goblin laughed madly and hurled a stone at the skeletons, instantly crushing them. 3 hours passed. Kim, now at level 37, was exhausted. He leaned against the cave walls, soaked in sweat. "This insane bastard, bringing him makes this feel like hard difficulty," Kim thought. Suddenly, the blacksmith blurted, "I'm still Humphrey," click. Kim stepped on something. A sharp noise echoed. The blacksmith's eyes widened. "Dodge, it's a trap." A golden flash lit up the corridor. 3 glowing arrows launched at Kim. Without thinking, he grabbed his goblin and used him as a shield. The arrows shattered harmlessly. Kim trembled, sweat pouring down. "That startled me. Why did it activate?" He glanced down. He'd stepped on a skeletal head. That was the trigger. Then he turned and froze. One of the arrows had struck Humphrey in the chest. Blood dripped from his mouth. The blacksmith groaned. "You coward, ditched me to save yourself." Kim's eyes widened. His jaw clenched. a system message appeared. Humphrey's HP dropped, then hit 0. A final notification, quest failed. Silence. Then a scream. Kim snapped and charged out of the dungeon like a lunatic. In the middle of town, he screamed, "I'm going to kill him again. You crazy blacksmith, you're already dead, but I'll kill you anyway." From above, a shadowy figure watched. Cold, intense eyes narrowed. The man whispered, "Finally found you, Shki Kol Su." Kim arrived at the blacksmith shop and dramatically shouted Humphrey's name. The blacksmith looked up, insulted Kim's gear, and mocked him. Kim held up his goblin like a trophy, smirking. But then, out of nowhere, Humphrey calmly thanked him for retrieving the hammer. A system message confirmed the quest was complete. Kim blinked in disbelief. "Wait, what? It dropped earlier?" Humphrey explained it dropped after killing the rat. Kim exploded, furious. "Why didn't you say that before?" Humphrey replied bluntly, "You're trash like always." Later, inside the shop, Humphrey forged gear without even looking at Kim. He explained how blacksmith sweat affects equipment quality. "Watch carefully," he said. "High-quality materials in skilled hands become something greater." Once finished, he declared the armor complete, then insulted Kim again, saying it was wasted on him. Kim pointed out he hadn't even broken a sweat. Humphrey replied seriously, "Exactly. That's why the quality is low." When Kim put on the armor, he was amazed. It was his first rare armor, made from hidden boss materials. Other players gathered to admire it, though Kim was too distracted to notice. A system window displayed rare blue steel light armor with level and agility requirements and a special skill chance. Then Humphrey reappeared, saying he wouldn't charge for the armor and didn't want any disgusting gratitude. Kim smirked. "I wasn't planning to pay anyway." Suddenly, a system notification appeared, PK mode activated. Kim sensed danger instantly. A blade flashed behind him. He dodged just in time. It was the man who had watched him earlier. The attacker paused, acknowledging Kim's dodge and accusing him of leaving a young woman half dead. A crowd gathered. Kim, confused, muttered about his agility stat. "What are you talking about? Who is she?" The man called him by name, accusing him of pretending not to know Catherine, and attacked again. Kim dodged once more, holding his head in confusion until the memory hit. Catherine, the girl who had betrayed him in a hidden dungeon. She had tricked him into joining her party, only to backstab him. Back in the present, Kim shouted that he was the victim. But the man coldly explained she was now in a vegetative state. Kim froze in horror, remembering the shrine and the moment Gager's massive foot slammed down on her. Panicking, Kim shouted that it wasn't his fault, it was Gager, but the man didn't care. "It's not up to you to decide if you're at fault. What matters is what happened. The heir to the demon group is now in jeopardy." The man lunged with his sword, but no damage. He blinked in confusion, then realized Kim had used his goblin shield. With two ugly goblin faces snickering, Kim smirked and said, "Should have started with this from the beginning." The goblins cackled together. Cars, phones, semiconductors, and more an international giant, not just in Korea. Even getting a job there was a life milestone. And now, here he sat in a hospital room, staring at the unconscious daughter of the conglomerate's chairman. She lay motionless, an oxygen mask covering her face. She had collapsed during a party with him because of the game. The man in front of him broke the silence, asking if she was really attacked by a level 80 monster in a hidden dungeon. Nervous, the protagonist stuttered, sweat pouring down as he muttered something about trauma and total incapacitation. But the man wasn't buying it. He leaned forward, demanding to know how a level 3 like him had escaped while a level 40 girl ended up like this. Panicking, the protagonist rambled about getting a hidden class and escaping by sheer luck. Then he admitted, regretfully, that she should have gotten the class instead. Looking at her again, he thought how doctors had done everything, but she still wouldn't wake up. If it were him, he'd be dead by now. The man's expression grew darker. How could a level 3 survive against a level 80 monster? Laughing awkwardly, the protagonist asked if there was a chance she'd recover. The man snapped, reminding him she wasn't dead, just unconscious. Even the best doctors didn't know why she wouldn't wake up. With nothing left to do, the protagonist softly asked if they should try healing her through the game. The man adjusted his glasses and told him to go on. The protagonist made a thoughtful pose, pretending he'd read an article once about someone regaining consciousness while logged into Heaven's Gate. But even as he spoke, he knew it was a lie, a 1 in 9 million chance. Still, he gently took the man's hand and, with fake concern, said they should at least try. Inside, he was bitter. They lied to me too. Yet his expression seemed so genuine that the man stared at him silently, deeply contemplating. The next day in the game, the girl's avatar appeared, but she was blank, expressionless, like a lifeless puppet. A nearby goblin ogled her and laughed pervertedly, while the protagonist froze in panic. The chairman actually gave permission. They let her log in while unconscious. Clenching his jaw, he realized how desperate they were. Then a darker fear crept in. If they found out he lied to DM group, he'd vanish. He circled the silent girl, thinking, this is bullshit. Recovering consciousness through a game. Never heard of it. But then he smirked. At least I'll be remembered as someone who tried. He leapt into the air and shouted dramatically in the square, can they really ignore someone who tried this hard to save the air they all gave up on? The goblin cackled behind him, but he didn't care. If she woke up, jackpot. If not, no loss. Staring at her face, he held her chin and muttered in mock seriousness, I'll pretend to save her for a while. Then, with a dramatic fake cry, he wailed they should prepare for the worst. After his act, he hugged himself like a mad genius, spinning and laughing. Then reality hit. How was he supposed to drag around someone who couldn't walk? His eyes landed on the goblin. That's it. Soon, the girl was being dragged behind him by a rope tied around her waist, with the goblin pulling her along like a slave. He confirmed the system was forcing her to follow. But then came the stairs. Whispers surrounded him, people muttering how disgusting it was to make a goblin drag a female player. Is this really okay? He tried to explain, I swear I'm close with her, but a girl scoffed. Treating someone you're close to like that? A guy added. If I get close to you, will you hit me too? His mind cracked. This is bad. This is just like the last town. As if on cue, a voice called out, this way. It was the old man again, waving from behind a building. But this time, the protagonist folded his arms, smirking. Explain first. Didn't expect to run into you again. As they walked together, the protagonist, suspicious, called the old man by a nickname. The old man didn't react, confirming his identity. The protagonist linked him to the goblin, suspecting it was a summoned creature. Ignoring the old man's attempt to explain, he accused the Evan Guild of scheming again. The old man, annoyed, clarified the guild only assembled for raids and didn't stay together. The goblin smiled faintly at him. The protagonist then asked for info about the region. The old man suggested moving locations and led him through a laser-guarded path. Later, a system notification appeared, PK mode activated. The protagonist stood with bloodied hands. The old man was on the ground, injured. Still, the old man explained that Pile region raids weren't on a schedule, they needed specific conditions. He then asked why the protagonist was so obsessed with dungeons. Nervous, the protagonist lied it was about money. But in truth, he was exploiting a bug. The old man offered real advice. Start in Phoenix Elbasar, a royal city with the main quest. High-level players went there too. The protagonist lit up, shaking the old man by the collar, scolding himself for not thinking of it earlier. But just as he turned to head out, he noticed something wrong. The girl was gone. Shocked, he asked the goblin where she went. Meanwhile, in a white space, the girl stood blankly as two shady men approached, leering. One noted her gear and asked why she was with that group. The other guessed she logged in and walked away from her device. They moved closer, pretending to call guards while implying something sinister. The protagonist ran frantically through the city. If she takes damage, I'm screwed. Suddenly, his device buzzed. It was a video call from the man with glasses, who immediately asked if the girl was safe. Gasping, the protagonist barely muttered confirmation. The man demanded proof. Caught off guard, he told him to send the money first, then corrected himself awkwardly. But his heavy breathing gave him away. The man mocked him again. Annoyed, the protagonist ended the call. The man cursed, and the older gentleman beside him, the chairman, calmly said to let it go. The chairman reminded the man that Catherine was the heir. But to him, it didn't matter if she died. She had always lived by the family's expectations. The only choice she ever made was entering heaven's door. Better to die seeing her chosen world than a hospital ceiling. Back in the game, the protagonist cursed the massive city and how real it felt. Then he remembered something odd. He got a goblin point in the dungeon without doing anything. That had unlocked a new skill, goblin HP share. He dismissed it. Then another, goblin throwing. That one caught his eye. Without hesitation, he summoned the goblin and threw it like a paper plane. Mid-air, the goblin pointed in a direction. The protagonist burst out laughing and ran. He arrived like a hero, facing the two men. With flair, he declared he came to pick her up. They mocked him, calling him the same ugly guy. One of them said they'd be the ones to make the girl feel good. Enraged, the protagonist shouted it wasn't like that and asked who they were. They arrogantly called themselves the handsome duo who saved women for fun. That was the last straw. The goblin stepped in and beat both men to a pulp. Bloodied and unconscious, they lay on the ground. The protagonist burst out laughing like a lunatic. "Serves you right, you bastards. How's it feel to lose to an ugly guy, huh?" His villainous laughter echoed through the streets so loudly even guards took notice. Still giggling, he grabbed Catherine's hand and dragged her along again. But as he turned the corner, his smile faded. His eyes widened in horror. "I am fucked." A soldier suddenly blocked their way, spear raised and voice sharp as he accused Keem of murder and kidnapping. Skeem, caught off guard, raised his hands in surrender and tried to explain it was all a misunderstanding. But even he knew how weak it sounded. He debated taking down the lone soldier before backup arrived. But then, unexpectedly, a goblin strolled forward with a grin, and an old bald man appeared, placing a hand on the soldier's shoulder, cheerfully pretending he had been looking for him. Skeem's eyes widened. He recognized the old man, a smooth-talking liar from before. When Skeem asked what he was doing, the man leaned in and warned him that killing a god NPC would trigger dangerous consequences. If Skeem wanted to avoid being hunted, he needed to stay calm. Confidently, the old man turned to the soldier and thanked him, but the soldier was suspicious. He noticed a pouch behind the old man and demanded to see it. The old man used his NPC gifting skill, offering the pouch of gold as a bribe. At first stunned, the soldier's expression quickly turned to rage. He grabbed the man by the collar, furious at the attempted bribe. Their relationship level dropped instantly. Skeem watched in silence as the soldier arrested the old man, leaving Skeem untouched. For a moment, Skeem stared in disbelief, oddly grateful. Somehow, that slippery man had gotten arrested in his place. Maybe he wasn't that bad after all. Later, Skeem stood at the gates of the Grand Palace, frustrated as he argued with the guard who refused to let him in. The guard was firm. No meant no. Skeem insisted that the main quest should begin inside, but the guard stayed silent. Then, from nearby, a relaxed voice cut in. A blonde-haired man leaned casually against the wall, smirking. He told Skeem not to bother. The door wouldn't open. Slightly annoyed, Skeem asked who he was. The blonde smiled and introduced himself as Shin. Skeem noticed the quest marker above Shin's head. This idiot was giving him a quest. Shin commented on Skeem's commotion, even complimenting his eyes, which made Skeem grimace. Shin said Skeem looked like a capable adventurer and asked him to help with a lost ruin to prove his worth. Without waiting, Scheme brought up his system panel and skipped the speech. Shin tried again, even cursed, but Scheme kept skipping. Finally, a notification appeared. Main quest: retrieve the golem's core from the lost ruins. Reward, 250G. Inside the lost ruins, Scheme stood before a lava pool, sighing in frustration. No one had told him it was a lava dungeon. He cursed the NPC under his breath and scanned the bubbling heat. This place was more like lost lives than lost ruins. He looked back at his half-slave wife. He couldn't leave her. With his agility, crossing was easy, but keeping her safe was the real challenge. Sighing, he handed the rope to the goblin and told it to hold tight. Then, he crouched, took a deep breath, and leapt across, landing smoothly. From the other side, he called the goblin using his summoner skill. The goblin jumped and landed clumsily but safe. The girl was still on the far side. Scheme smirked. This skill was really useful. But then, disaster struck. The goblin, seeing the rope still connected, turned. The tension yanked the girl dangerously close to the lava's edge. Scheme panicked and shouted, but the goblin pulled harder, flinging her across like a rag doll. She crash-landed in front of him, tangled and unmoving. Horrified, Scheme dropped to his knees, calling her name. She didn't respond. Inside her mind, Catherine was reliving a nightmare. Her father stood with a golf bat, furious she had stayed out late. His words were cruel, accusing her of becoming trash like her friends. Tears streamed as he raised the bat. She begged him to stop, cried out for her mother, but her mother stayed behind a door, silent and unmoving. Alone, Catherine sobbed, pleading for mercy. Back in the present, Chul Suzkim called her name again, sweating with worry. A goblin made a strange noise, and Keem sarcastically joked that the goblin should try mouth to mouth. Still, despite knowing it was just a game, he knelt beside her, gently held her face, and thought of trying CPR. He told himself it wasn't selfish, it was the right thing to do. Just as he leaned in, a video panel popped up. The butler, Paul, appeared with a curse, asking how the lady was doing. Keem panicked. Paul stared, threatening him coldly, saying he'd kill him. Scheme flailed to explain, but Paul said he was already monitoring her vitals. She wasn't dead. Relief washed over Keem. Paul warned him not to touch her while unconscious. Before he could finish, Scheme smashed the call panel and ended the call. Paul stared at the blank screen, seething. Scheme turned to the goblins. "You heard him," he said. The goblins grinned. "We're running to the boss room. Full speed. Let's go." In the dim dungeon, Scheme ran, dodging traps and a massive boulder. He grabbed the unconscious Catherine and used her like a skateboard, sliding across the floor. The goblins dodged acrobatically. At a broken bridge, one goblin threw Catherine across. She thudded on the other side. They tied a rope to her and helped Scheme crawl across. At last, they reached the boss room, facing a massive golem. Still in chaos mode, Scheme picked up Catherine and hurled her at the golem like a weapon. The golem punched her mid-air, knocking her flat. Scheme's face turned pale. "Oh no," he muttered, realizing he got too excited. A system message popped up. "You gained a goblin point." Clenching his fists, he shouted, "How dare you hit my anti-trap diffuser?" He ordered the goblins to finish the golem in one hit. They charged with laughter, and Catherine slumped in the background, clearly having the worst day of her in-game life. Just as it looked like she was done, her fingers twitched. She was still alive. Meanwhile, the golem launched a rocket punch at Scheme. It exploded on impact, smoke everywhere. From the smoke, a goblin emerged, stabbing through the golem with one clean strike. Scheme stood coolly, arms crossed. "Not even phased," he muttered. Just as he was about to grab the core, the golem began to reform, bigger and fiercer than before. What the why is it getting bigger? Panic and excitement mixed as he ordered the goblin to attack again. The goblin landed a ridiculous 999 damage strike. The golem fell. Scheme sighed in relief. Finally, but then the golem resurrected again, pink lightning flashing. "Stop resurrecting, damn it," Scheme yelled. He ordered the goblins to block, not destroy, but they couldn't help themselves. One goblin tanked another punch, causing another explosion. Scheme dodged, running and thinking fast. If he didn't destroy the core, it would keep reviving. He remembered the old man's warning about the core, but didn't know where it was. The golem kept coming. Catherine, still lying on the ground, suddenly flashed back to a memory another monster, another near death. Her face twisted with fear, her eyes wide, and a scream tore from her throat as her consciousness fully returned. Trembling, panicked, the blank calm she once had was gone, replaced by pure terror.